staying healthy, staying sexy, staying young is what living life is all about. And if you have doctors that have proven treatments that keep people young and healthy so they don't get sick, you want people to know about these treatments and that they exist.
This episode is brought to you by GainsWave. GainsWave is a treatment done at your doctor's office to optimize erection quality without the needs of Viagra, Cialis. It's non-surgical, there's no needles, and it has an amazing success rate. To find a GainsWave provider, go to gainswave.com. That's GAINSWAVE.com. This is Mark L. White with Health Hacks, and today we have Dr. Dan Ritacca you're up in Illinois, right?
Correct. I'm in Vernon Hills, just 28 miles north of Chicago.
Oh, wow. Chicago. How's that doing right now in the age of coronavirus?
Chicago's doing great. I mean, unless they're not telling us the truth. I've been considered an essential worker now for 3 or 4 months, and I've come across maybe 2 or 3 people that have had the virus. And I've heard of every once in a while a death, but I have not seen many viral infections in my practice, where we do pretty much reconstructive cosmetic surgery, and we were open the whole time.
Oh, that's great. Have you always been in cosmetic surgery, or did you have a other career in medicine before this?
I started in eye surgery, and then I branched out into plastic surgery of the eye and reconstruction. Sorry about that. That's
it's all good.
Oh, good. I started in oculoplastic reconstruction of the midface, where I removed cancers from behind the eye, reconstructed eyelids from trauma, and then from there I started branching into pure cosmetics, creating Asian eyelid folds or removing excess tissue from skin.
Asian eyelid folds? Mm-hmm. What's that?
You know how the Asian has a double eyelid?
Okay.
I mean, Western people have double eyelids, and the Asians don't have folds. It's just skin that overhangs the lashes.
Okay, and then you opened up the Ritacca Laser Center.
Right. We built a surgery center, got it Medicare approved. I brought in other specialists, nurse injectors that we inject Botox fillers, plastic surgeon that does breasts, tummy tucks, other doctors that specialize in anti-aging. And from anti-aging, we began to go into alternate forms of therapy. For instance, stem cells. I've been doing stem cells for 10 years now, where I harvest the stem cell from the fat and inject it into the veins, or we even injected it into the brain. We had one of the doctors injected into the brain for Parkinson's disease, showed tremendous improvement. Then the FDA cracked down on everybody, so I stopped pretty much doing that until the FDA starts to realize that if I was harvesting these stem cells from these patients and was banking them, I could have probably treated this COVID disease without any problems, because everybody would have had their high potency stem cells, cytokines, anti-inflammatory factors banked. But they started clamping. Yeah. So you know what you do when the FDA comes down? You hide. You go away until they either start to realize their mistakes, or somebody proves it, and they're about to prove that stem cells, natural killer cells, and cytokines rescue the body from these cytokine storms that we see in COVID-19.
I know in Israel they're using stem cells as a therapy for COVID-19.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was banking stem cells about 8 years ago. We had banks throughout the country. They would grow the stem cells, and I would inject 10, 20 million stem cells into people's veins. And with the stem cells, there are what's called anti-inflammatory components, cytokines, growth factors, probably thousands of them, that regenerate tissue. It was a crude science. However, it was a simple science because I only had to remove maybe a half a Coke can of fat and then extract the stem cells. So we were doing that. We were treating arthritis. We're getting phenomenal results with arthritis, phenomenal. And we're attempting to treat Parkinson's disease. Everything was legitimate. All the patients were told that these were studies. We had IRBs, which is an investigational review board. We had all that, and we collected data. We had over 10,000 data points on everybody, so we could look at every disease that we were treating to see which was worthwhile and which was not. And some of the things that we didn't treat, like ALS, was very difficult. It's Lou Gehrig's disease. But MS was a home run. MS was very easily treated. And what we would do, if you treated enough, you'd probably put a remission to MS. Once MS got scars, it was difficult to fix. But hopefully we would get to MS.
Why do you think the FDA would crack down on a treatment that we have so many studies, we know it works, they're doing it all over the world? Is it like, what's the FDA thinking?
The FDA wants to be able to control a medicine as best as possible. And in one respect, I don't blame them because there are a lot of, and I don't like to use the word snake oil salespeople out there, but they were promising the patients too much. It wasn't legitimate. It wasn't adequately supervised. They didn't have credentials. And everybody was opening up a stem cell center and calling other things that weren't stem cells, stem cells. So the FDA just with a broad stroke eliminated everything. But that's going to change. I think it's probably going to change within the next 12 months. And I feel that the con of, and I use that word purposely, the con of stem cells is too expensive to harvest. If they could have done something to make it cheaper, where I would harvest something and cost the patient maybe $500-600 and $200 to grow it, that'd be a home run for everybody. Then you'd have stem cells to repair hearts, to repair any damaged tissue that the patient could bank and have their own stem cells, not somebody else's.
Does platelet-rich plasma give you similar effects at a fraction of the price, or is it just a whole different league?
I think it's a whole different ballgame, because platelet-rich plasma is not what I would consider part of the primordial soup. It's mostly cytokines and not in a high quality or quantity. If you want to get close to the stem cell, you have to go to the cord blood. Grow those cells and take the juice. It's like making orange juice. You grow the cells and then you start taking the juice from the cells. And there you have over 600 growth factors and anti-inflammatory cytokines, which has been shown to improve COPD.
Now people are getting this cord blood though from other donors.
Exactly. So you worry about the prions. You don't have to worry about DNA because you're not mixing DNA. That's one bad thing about embryonic stem cells, whole cells, but there's no DNA involved. But you do have to worry about infections that down the road we might all of a sudden discover. And I believe that the big one is the prion.
What is prion?
Prion is some type of infective disease that's not in a cell that can infect the body and then become part of the cell.
Okay, so if somebody's using their own stem cells from fat, and I know you can get stem cells from bone marrow, you don't have to worry about any of that.
Correct. And then the beauty of it is that if you have the stem cell, you can turn that stem cell into a more primitive form, grow it out, and get the stem cell factors, which are called cytokines. And the cytokines are anti-inflammatory. So if you have inflammation, which we all do because aging is inflammation, and you start to study this, I would not be surprised if injecting stem cells on a quarterly basis prevents the body from aging quickly because of
the fountain of youth there. That's it.
Yes. because
That's awesome.
because of inflammation. And that's, as we get into cryo, we're going to discuss why cryo works, and it's because of inflammation, anti-inflammatory.
I was in California last year, and I saw cryotherapy labs probably on every other street corner. They don't really have that in Florida. I mean, it's so hot here, we need that, but you don't see it.
Yeah, I was in California as well, and they're innovators when it comes to bicycle paths, parks, new technology. The California people are innovators. They understand what it takes to feel good, to look good, and all this technology. I'm not sure whether they get it from Asia first or Europe, but they embrace the technology a lot faster than the Midwesterners or the East Coast people.
You know, you see a lot of naturopaths there too.
Yes.
It's definitely more holistic and integrative. Let's talk a little bit about cryotherapy now. It's when I was in California, I jumped into a cryotherapy chamber. It was so freaking cold. But tell us a little bit about, like, what is cryotherapy and what are the benefits?
Okay, so this isn't anything new. This has been around probably for 4,000 years. Have you ever been to a Turkish bath?
No, I can't say that I have.
Okay. Well, I've been at a Turkish bath that was 2,000 years old in Budapest. And first you go into steam, hot baths, and then you get yourself dunked into ice freezing water. The Greeks used to call this the cold cure. That's where we get cryotherapy. So this has been known for thousands of years. The Romans had it. So cryotherapy isn't anything new. It's almost like been rediscovered or reinvented. Back in 1970, a Japanese doctor saw that his patients, when they went to the mountains, would come back and they would be refreshed and free of their rheumatoid arthritis. So he started applying these techniques to rheumatoid arthritis, and everybody started improving and getting better. So he called his first, I believe it was a cryosauna. Then went to Poland, and did you ever hear of the Ice Man?
No, I can't say that I have.
Wim Hoff. And then they started studying Wim Hoff, and back in the 80s, these cryo therapies, and all this clinical information started coming out. Wim Hoff is somebody that made it popular in Europe. He's got 26 Guinness Book World Records for staying in the ice, underneath the ice, for hours. And they started testing him at UCLA and found out that he can control his immune system. And he believed, he made claims, which I don't want to advertise for Wim, but he made claims that autoimmune disease would be a thing of the past if we can control our immune system through the mind. And he believed that cold therapy, through his method of breathing and cold therapy, he can control his autonomic nervous system, drop his heart rate, do remarkable things. So from Europe, they started studying Wim Hof. They also started studying cryotherapy in several different aspects, because we have sports injury, we have anti-aging, and then we have just cognitive effects. So all these avenues were being studied. And then it came to America probably about 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Is that when you were out in California?
I had this done probably 2 years ago.
Yeah. Well, the first machines were coming out about 2010, and they were just open boxes. Now they have closed. Was yours a closed box?
It was a closed box, yes.
Yeah. And they were fed with nitrous.
Yep.
Nitrous oxide. And the boxes started changing. Now they have electric boxes. And the boxes varied in expense from $18,000 to $650,000.
Wow. Now, when we talk about cold, we're talking about 135 degrees below zero?
You're talking 270 degrees below zero Fahrenheit. You're talking 110 Celsius.
How long can somebody stay inside of that without freezing to death or without?
I think you start to freeze after 3 minutes. They have a limit. The FDA has approved. They do have warning labels, but the FDA has approved up to 3 minutes. We monitor all our patients because there's contraindications to being in a ice box or a freezing chamber, we'll call it a chamber, for more than a few minutes. You cannot have heart disease, high blood pressure, or what's called Raynaud's disease, where you get cramping from the blood vessels constricting. So I think that to answer your question, no more than 3 minutes. How long were you in?
Probably 3 minutes. I remember the last 90 seconds, I was like dying to get out of there. It was freaking cold.
Yes. Now, one of the cons against cryotherapy, it can be expensive. What did you pay?
Well, it was a friend of mine's office, so I paid nothing, but I
Okay,
think
good.
they were charging like anywhere from $50 to $100 a
Yes.
session, and I guess you have to do a series of sessions
Yes.
to get full benefits.
Correct. In Europe, it's part of their health insurance.
Okay, that's not happening here in the U.S. anytime soon.
So you don't hit right because there's
you could jump in Lake Michigan and sit in
Yes.
there in the middle of the winter.
Yes, cold water is somewhat comparable, but it's nowhere comparable to going down to minus 270 degrees Fahrenheit. And they studied the effects of cold water versus cryo. And I think that the short exposure time of 3 minutes of cryo is a little bit safer, and the benefits are even greater. So to answer your question, I would not go in for 3 minutes, but my concept, and because this is new, everybody develops concepts and treatment. My concept is, I don't think you need 3 minutes. I think that if you go in for a minute or 2 minutes and just do it on a daily basis, you're going to get the benefits without that screaming adverse effect that you have to the machine by staying in for 3 minutes. And then once you get used to it, the body will adapt and know what's coming. And it won't feel that intense cold anymore. And if we talk about the benefits, I think that if you gradually build up to something like this, I foresee that these are going to be in people's homes. Maybe a lot of the gurus already have them, all the health gurus like Greenberg and Anthony Robbins. I know Anthony Robbins has three.
He has that cold plunge. Have you ever seen it where he jumps into that like 32 degrees of water every morning?
I haven't seen that, but I know I heard him talk once, and he has 3 of these machines. And he has one, I heard hearsay that he has one built if he goes to talk, or one's put up and he goes into it right before he gets a talk.
One thing I noticed when I did mine, other than the cold, was when I got out, your brain does feel sharper. It's like when you walk outside, it's like you wake up, or if you take a cold shower, you wake up. It was like I felt clarity and sharpness. How do you explain that? Or is that something that I felt?
That's easily explained. Have you ever lived in the Midwest?
Yeah, in St. Louis.
Yeah. Did you ever go sledding in the winter and then come home and have a hot cup of chocolate?
Yes,
Yeah,
I have.
Yeah. How do you feel? How'd you feel? Do you still remember those moments?
I remember sledding because in Miami, you don't have sledding, but yes.
Right. Well, it's going outside, cold weather, and then coming back in. It's a euphoria that you experience. These are the chemicals that Wim Hof talks about, the Ice Man, that you're stimulating the endocannabinoid system. So you're basically getting high on your own supply.
That's the same thing, CBD receptors?
Yes, but even more intense, I believe. And I think it's your own CBD receptors. And this is theoretical, but I believe that if you do this long enough, you make your receptors probably even more dense. So this high in your own supply starts to stay with you longer. And that just leads me to one study that showed that if you did 20 to 30 sessions, this is where you start to see the effects of the anti-inflammation, the euphoric effects, and it can last up to 2 weeks. What CBD oil lasts up to 2 weeks? And they've tested elite swimmers, rugby players, all elite athletes, because they've been focusing on the elite group. How is going to help them perform? The Olympians. How will it help them perform? What can enhance their performance without taking a drug? So it's been studied more in that realm than in any other realm. For instance, dermatology or psychology. With the elite swimmers, you'll see scores of studies.
So you hear about like elite athletes after an event, they'll go take an ice bath for 20 minutes. Is it
Correct?
Like you could see cryotherapy basically replacing the traditional ice bath?
Absolutely. And especially because cryotherapy has been compared to ice baths and shown biochemically, and they look at everything biochemically from cytokines, IL factors, anti-inflammatory factors, platelets. They measure testosterone. They compare the two, and they feel that the cryotherapy has more of an intense effect. I think that ice baths are going to be something of the past. If you can just walk into a cryo unit for 2 minutes before the game, why wait till after? Studies are starting to show that this will also be a preventive therapy for muscle soreness or muscle fatigue or overuse that they treat it for. Before anything happens, I think that people are going to be going into these tanks and preparing for these events. My side of the equation is I see the benefit in the health benefits in the psychology, because like you said, your brain was firing quicker, your synapses. I do this right before I see patients. I'll see sometimes 25, 30 patients. Cosmetic can be stressful. You have to focus. You need that focusing. You need good intentions for every patient. Every patient, you have to narrow in your focus. So I do this right before I see patients. And once I do it, I am just psyched up. And I like to do it. I try and do it almost every day if I can.
And the benefits, that mental acuity benefit lasts, I guess, hours after that.
I believe that they've shown if you do the 20, 30 sessions, you'll start to have the effects last for a couple of weeks. But the mental acuity effects that you're talking about, and I've been trying to measure how I feel, last at least 8 hours. Because at about 8 hours, I'm pretty much, I start to get fatigued and I'm ready to jump right back in again.
Okay.
So other people like Anthony Robbins, I haven't heard from them, but a lot of this is subjective, of course. But when I talk about certain things like IL-6 and IL-10 and anti-inflammatory components, all that has been clinically proven without a reasonable doubt.
So in Chicago, there's probably not too much known about cryotherapy.
It's starting to become known. The con, the pros, I've given you the con is it can be too expensive. You have to bring it down to where would you want a cup of coffee at some of these expensive places, or just jump in a cryo for 2 minutes and feel like you just got shot out of a cannon.
Yeah, I'd rather get shot out of a cannon, but it runs what, like $50?
Yeah, in my clinic, I charge $20.
Really? And they have to buy packages, or it's just
No,
$20 flat?
no,
That's great.
I'm not interested in making money off of that, because I feel that the benefit I get is from a holistic approach to helping people. And this approach will bring me returns in the future, because people will trust that I care about their well-being, and
Pharma,
they'll allow me to do other things because cosmetically, I change people's lives. I give them what sometimes nature takes away. And nature, and I don't want to talk about nature as God because they're two different, but nature can sometimes be a little cruel. And I like to consider myself doing the Lord's work and fixing what nature might not have given certain people. And just to make them feel outwardly good, I enjoy making them feel inwardly good too. And the most important is the autoimmune disease. MS, rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia, lupus, all these patients, they'll maybe take less drugs, but they'll feel wonderful. And this has clinically been proven, but nobody talks about it because you can't pharmaceutically make money on a cryo machine.
No,
it's right? You can't.
It's pretty difficult.
Yeah.
It's
And
pretty difficult.
once in America, will go to, I believe, what you call it, a one-payer system. Eventually we'll go to it. I think the controversy is everybody wants healthcare to be delivered to everybody. That's both right and left. We all do. But the right doesn't believe the government can deliver it. And the left believes that the right can't deliver it through the current method. But I think that everything eventually will go towards a one-payer system, and hopefully all these beneficial alternative therapies like massage, cryotherapy, nutrition, which is a big one, will infiltrate everybody's home lifestyle, and it will become norm, like the Californians.
If you go to a one-payer system and you take the profit motive out, then there'll probably be more of an emphasis on keeping people healthy because it won't drain the healthcare system.
I think so, like in Europe. I agree. But what everybody's scared of is that the government isn't the best when it comes to running a program.
Yeah, they're not the best operators.
No.
You know, I'm looking at how they're managing this pandemic, and if they manage the healthcare system the way they've managed the pandemic, we're all in trouble.
I know. It's but that's the price of freedom.
Yeah.
If we were a totalitarian government, we'd manage this pandemic great. But I agree with you that because of what they called federalism, the governors in each state could decide what they wanted instead of like China, they shut down everything.
Yeah, you can't go anywhere without your app, and it's crazy. I guess I'm going to finish on. We started on COVID-19 coronavirus. We're talking about cryo. You're talking about autoimmune system, but do you see like cryotherapy being a good treatment for coronavirus? And do you see anything there?
Absolutely. I don't think you wait till you get the coronavirus. But cryotherapy will help you strengthen your immune system. I think that maybe I've been sick once in the last maybe 3 years. I probably had the flu. It lasted maybe 12 hours. But at the time, you start pumping yourself with vitamins and Zicam. And I was amazed that I was able to shake something that everybody was down for 2 to 3 weeks in 12 hours. And I attributed, but I'm not going to go jump in the cryo when I get the flu, because there's temporary effects that may lower your immune system, like the cold. You don't want to run out in your underwear on a Arctic vortex. But I know people that do that, but I'd be afraid to jump in the cryo if I got sick. So beforehand, though.
Okay, so if somebody is listening to this, they're up in Chicago, they want to come see you. What's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
They just called the office, Ritacca Laser Center.
Okay, so they can go to ritaccalasercenter.com. We'll put the
Correct.
links in the show notes.
Okay.
I really appreciate the time, and I
Yeah.
learned a lot about cryo, and it's really cool. Cryo, stem cells, good stuff.
Yes. Yeah, we're into alternative medicine. I'm almost 70 years old.
You don't look 70.
Yeah, and I think that for people my age, one of the benefits of cryo, diet, and certain things is higher testosterone and a better sexual performance and sex life. Because I want to die old but feeling young. That's my goal.
It's all about the quality of years, not so much
Yes.
the quantity.
Get to 95 and then just drop.
There we go.
Yeah.
Doctor, thank you for the time.
Well,
I
thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
Okay.
And we're looking forward to talking to you again.
Okay. And